Again, it's Madeline of Sister Luna Psychic Services, and today we're doing F is for Fairies. Yes, I already did a fairy video, but I'm doing another one, so that's what I'm doing. I love fairies. I covered Banshee in the video for B, but this is straight from the grimoire, my personal experience with fairies, not like a cerebral explanation of the term like the other video was. So this is about how I experienced the fairies myself. And I would love to hear how anyone who watches this video has experienced fairies, or if you don't believe in fairies and you think that I'm a crazy person, I want to hear from you too, everybody. This is the tale of how I became a woman of fairies. I had already declared myself a disciple of the forest, dedicated myself to learning from it, as we all do. I had a vision of myself as a child working a spell, a memory really, and I was compelled to work that spell over again. This led me into the forest to wildcraft, which means to pick wild plants, essentially. I had the distinct feeling of being guided along this path. I went to the river for a moment and remembered my connection with him, but I quickly carried on my way. As the forest led me down a path I didn't know, I became excited. I had never experienced anything like this before. Then I came up on my awesome destination, a fallen tree and a standing tree in a perfect L shape, roots facing together. They both seemed to be alive. This is what the forest wanted to show me. This was my incredible gift. This was a fairy mound. There was a large hollow opening in the fallen tree, and I perceived this to be the doorway. I walked the length of the tree in my bare feet, connecting us. I saw what at first seemed to be an exceptionally strange and beautiful white butterfly, though I knew in my heart what this creature was. My mind still tried to rationalize and categorize it. Then it darted into a hole in the tree and disappeared. I was granted a fairy sighting, knowledge of the location of a fairy home, and some of the fairies' special flowers. I knew the forest appreciated my love and attention, but I never expected I would receive a profound reward like this. I wept with gratitude and let my tears fall onto the bark of the tree near the opening. Then I lay down on the tree and wanted to never leave. I basked in the glory of my privilege and the warmth of the sun. And there's a drawing. I feel like I'm reading to like children. There's more. Also, I really miss this forest. I moved to a different part of the city and I love my home. Don't get me wrong, I love it. But I miss those trees. I miss that forest. We had a connection. I haven't found that place here yet. Anyway, the pansy. And this is literally the pansy from the story. I took the fairy water home. So I made water, like I took a glass container with me on the journey that I just described and filled it with water at the river, and then I put some of the flowers that I found at the fairy mount into it. And some other flowers I found along the same walk as well. So I took the fairy water home and set it on the back step to collect energy from the sun and the moon. I was sitting in the backyard when my mother came and schooled me. She said, "Why on earth do you have that on the step? Why don't you put it in the garden with that strange horn you found?" I found a buffalo horn. in the same forest. Oh, I found a horn from an unknown animal on the riverbank a few years ago and took it home. She was so right. It was obvious. So I moved the water straight away. She went on to tell me of an unknown pest that was putting holes in her plants. The water stayed in the garden for weeks, sharing energy with the soil, increasing the power of both the water and the garden. In time, I was back in the garden with my mother again, and she pointed to me a mutant flower that seemed to have sprung up overnight. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. It looked like a pansy. It was vibrant purple and white with bright yellow flecks. The color pattern and the shape of the petals was totally original. We had never planted pansies, but they've always been a favorite of mine. Then she said, "It's all that fairy magic stuff you put in my garden." My mother is a witch too. The fairies are coming and planting flowers in my garden. I never said a word to her about meeting the fairies, but I think she was right. I poured some of the water on the special pansy and on the plants with the pest issue. I kept the rest in a tiny glass vial. Time passed and the pansy disappeared, and so did the pests. So that's my personal experience with fairies. The spell that I worked as a child that I wanted to do again, that I mentioned in the first story, was when I was little. Basically, I would make flower essences. Like, I would just pick a bunch of flowers and put them in a bottle with water and put it out in the sun. That was just something that little child Madeline wanted to do. So I did. And then I remembered it and I went, hey, I was making flower essences. I was doing magic. That's a little tiny witch. So that's my story about fairies. Surprisingly, nobody has been mean to me about it. Nobody has told me that I'm crazy, and I'm grateful for that. My brother even got me a book that is very fat, The Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries. It's a scientific exploration of the possibility of fairies being real. It's very big and well researched and old. It's from the used bookstore. So, do you believe in fairies? What have your experiences with them been like? Thanks again for watching. Merry meet, merry part, merry meet again. Blessed be.